What is the rarest way to get a KO in Pokemon? Maybe hitting an uncommon and inaccurate move like Zap Cannon? What about OHKO moves like Sheer Cold? I think the interesting thing about this question is that there isn't a single correct answer that can be calculated. So instead of trying to determine the single rarest KO in its math, I'm going to go over some interesting sets of circumstances that you are really unlikely to ever see play out. For the first scenario, let's start out simple but feasible. For this selection, I've chosen Sea of Fire. Sea of Fire is a field effect that is caused by using Fire Pledge and Grass Pledge and does 12.5% HP to Pokemon on the opposing side of the field at the end of the turn for 4 turns. Pledge moves are generally rare due to the limited distribution of them and the need to run 2 users. Not only is this an uncommon field effect, but it's unlikely that a Pokemon will ever be left with under an eighth of their HP while Sea of Fire is active. However, I'm sure some of you have seen this, so it's not too out there. That means it's time to get out there. Let me ask you a question. At the beginning of Gen 9 when Terra was new, did you ever find yourself giving a poison type Black Sludge while also giving it a Terra type other than poison? I'm pretty sure I made this mistake once or twice while team building, but how often did that mistake translate into an actual battle? Moreover, how often did that mistake lead to something like Glowking getting KO'd because of it? I'm sure at least a few of you had the displeasure of unwittingly taking damage from Black Sludge, and maybe one of you even lost a Pokemon to it. I found this one interesting because it's only possible in Gen 9. Terrestrialization has led from Black Sludge going from being pretty standard on bulky poison types to being almost obsolete. The guarantee of healing provided by leftovers, regardless of type, is generally a lot more useful than the possibility of a trick user stealing that Black Sludge. I doubt anyone's sludging themselves nowadays, but I know what happened at the beginning of Gen 9, which makes it pretty rare. Sticking with poison types, let's talk about Liquid Ooze. Liquid Ooze is an ability that causes life-stealing effects, such as Leech Seed, to cause damage to the recipient instead of healing. This ability rarely comes up because, surprisingly, only 2 evolutionary lines get it, Tentacruel and Swalot. One reason you're unlikely to ever take much from Liquid Ooze is that Poison happens to resist almost all HP draining moves. The draining moves that Poison doesn't resist are Bitter Blade, Oblivion Wing, and Parabolic Charge. Oh, and Dream Eater too. 3 of those have very limited distribution, and the other is Dream Eater, so the odds of them interacting with Liquid Ooze is pretty slim. Easily the funniest and most disastrous move to use against a Liquid Oozer is Strength Sap because of the huge potential damage. I think Liquid Ooze is a cool ability and I'd like to see more Pokemon get it, but for now it remains a very fringe way to get KO'd. Alright, I know there's one that you probably immediately thought of, Metronome. More specifically, Metronome calling one of these 7 moves that cause the user to faint. Unlike the other scenarios where the circumstances are just unlikely, this one is actually a math problem. All we have to do is figure out the number of moves that Metronome can call. According to my calculations, there are 697 usable moves in Gen 9, and of these, 114 cannot be called by Metronome, which leaves us with 583 moves that can be used by Metronome. That gives us a final figure of 7 out of 583, or about a 1.2% chance of fainting when using Metronome. Pretty unlikely, but not nearly as unlikely as the next scenarios. One form of Pokemon that demands creativity is the escape room genre. Pokemon escape rooms are essentially puzzles. The creator will give the player very specific tools such that there is usually only one intended solution to each problem. As such, this leads to very unique battles that you won't usually see elsewhere. A great example of this is Freezeye's Mountain. If you like to play that without spoilers, go ahead and skip ahead. Okay, now that the nerds are gone, let's get to the most interesting part of Freezeye's Mountain, the Oricorio battle. The crux of this battle is that you have to use Lunar Dance on Cresselia. This activates Oricorio's ability Dancer, which causes the Oricorio to copy Lunar Dance and then faint. This is a really cool interaction and perfect for the escape room aspect. So next time Oricorio boosts out of control, just send out your Cresselia and kamikaze its Lunar Dance. For the penultimate scenario, let's talk about Pikachu. Wait, fuck, that's Mimikyu! Hello, it's me, YouTuber Portobello Mushroom. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite Pokemon, Mimikyu. Mimikyu's sole ability is Disguise, and when it was introduced, it was a bit much. With Disguise and a Focus Sash, Mimikyu could reliably set up 2 Swords Dances. Game Freak decided to nerf this strategy by changing Disguise such that Mimikyu takes an eighth of its max HP when Disguise is broken. This is important because moves and abilities that ignore abilities, like Mold Breaker, can bypass Disguise. That means it's possible to get Mimikyu down to low HP without breaking Disguise. If this happens, it is possible to KO Mimikyu by breaking its Disguise. This is honestly one that I doubt anyone watching has ever considered, much less witnessed. However, I have one more hypothetical that I think takes the cake. Now for my last and most unlikely scenario. For this one, we'll be looking at another ghost with a unique ability, Goldango. Usually Goldango cannot be directly status, but there are 2 ways that it can be. The first is via secondary effect. For example, it's possible to burn Goldango with Scald. The second way is to use a Pokemon with an ability that ignores good as gold. For this scenario, we're going to be looking specifically at ways to put Gholdengo to sleep, and there's only one way. No Pokemon must Mold Break or get a sleep move, but there is one other ability and its sole user. Mycelium Might, the signature ability of Toedscruel. Okay, so Toedscruel can put Gholdengo to sleep, but how does that lead to a KO? Enter Darkrai, yet another Pokemon with a signature ability, Bad Dreams. So this means it's possible to put Gholdengo to sleep, bring it down to an eighth of its max HP, and then finish it off with Bad Dreams. With Sleep having been banned in OU, you can only replicate this scenario in Ubers or Ubers UU, which makes it even more rare than it would have been otherwise. Therefore, I believe that knocking out Gholdengo with Bad Dreams is the rarest way you could get a KO. Welcome to the end of the video. If you're still here, I'd love to hear what you think about these scenarios that I've concocted. I'm really looking forward to the equally demented ways of getting KOs that some of y'all have thought of that I haven't. Please consider subscribing, otherwise I will send Toedscruel and Darkrai to your home, and I think you know what happens after that. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.